Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We are very excited to get the celebrity coach, Rick Sessinghaus, who's been working with Collin. We, of course, all know that. Rick's been multiple-time Metro Chapter and Section Teacher of the Year. I know Rick personally from our time together at Shoal Canyon, and he's taught at the same time up at Valencia. And of course, he's been working with Collin and a few others over these last two years, and he's been on the move. And we've been seeing the action and the excitement on LinkedIn, and of course, tracking the excitement with Collin's success, of course. Good morning, Rick. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's all yours. Take it away.
All right, sounds great. All right, fellow PGA members, it's a privilege to be able to speak to you today. This has been a very exciting year and years for me, and I wanted to be able to share some of the things that I've worked on with Collin throughout the years, and also some of the excitement even from the last 5 or 6 months has been quite an experience for me as a teacher. And so as I share, it's going to be a little bit of his junior development. I shared some of this information at the Youth Summit. I'm going to add on a little bit of what I've learned in the last year, being more on the PGA Tour, and some of the challenges that come with that too. But obviously, I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that has come my way. And so when we look at the relationship with Collin and I, we met when he was 8 years old, as he's 23 years old now, at the driving range at Shoal Canyon Golf Course in Glendale. And him and his father came up to me and asked if I would give him private lessons. Up to that point, he was just doing group classes. And kind of my funny way of saying it is that he came up, he hit one shot. I go, you bet, let's work. He already had great fundamentals. He was already, you could tell, good hand-eye coordination. And yet all of us have worked with talented juniors. That doesn't always guarantee success down the road. And so I want to give you just a kind of a little backdrop of kind of his junior career a little bit, college career a little bit, and then obviously what he's done on the tour. So my background is I've been teaching golf for 27 years now. At the start of my career, I was obsessed with golf swing, and everything had to be perfect positions and so on and so forth. And then it's definitely evolved, my philosophy. I got into TPI, and I worked for a company called Body Balance back in the day with the physical parts. But I was also obsessed with the mental side of the game. So I went back to school and got my doctorate in applied sports psychology. I wrote a book called Golf, the Ultimate Mind Game. And so my philosophy was always trying to put all these puzzle pieces together. And I think with juniors, that has served me quite well. As they get older, and I'll talk about it in a moment, I may not be able to do all those puzzle pieces because of what's required with advanced players. So a little bit background on Collin's successes is, even though I started seeing him when he was 8 years old and he went through, US Kids Tour, SCPGA, Toyota Tour Cup, AJGA, he was interviewed, I forget, a couple months ago about his junior experiences. And he said he never won an AJGA event. Now, I bring that up because, as many of you know, we have these parents that are obsessed that my kid hasn't won this and hasn't won that. And oh my gosh, it's like, well, Collin never won an AJGA event. And we think he can win one now, though. We think we got his game ready for that. So the point of that is we know that the juniors develop differently, not only physically, mentally, emotionally. And for us, it was looking at when did he kind of call the tipping point, right? He was a very good junior golfer in Southern California, no question. But you wouldn't say he was the best. And when he was 16 years old, he won the Junior Western Amateur, which was a national event. And I think at that point, if you asked him, that really boosted his confidence to say, oh, I can play at the national stage. That's when I believe kind of the floodgates opened for him, is that he was the same type of player. Don't get me wrong, he's very talented. But I think, as we all know, that the belief system of, hey, I belong or I can contend at the top level, I think was a huge thing for him. He then went on, as he went into play for Cal Berkeley for 4 years. He got to play on the international team for the Palmer Cup. He got to play with the Walker Cup, which was probably one of the better Walker Cup teams of all time, since I think 8 of those players are either have Korn Ferry or PGA Tour status right now. They were loaded. He went 4-0 in that. He won a lot of national amateur events, and this is a key thing when people ask me, what was the difference of why did Collin succeed at the PGA Tour level? Now, I don't have all that answers. I'm just letting you know what I look at from college players. Some college players do really well in college events, yet it doesn't translate to summer amateur events, right? You never see them at Western Amateur, USAM playing some of these big events. So I believe Collin has had great development because not only did he win in college, he won on the national stage in amateur events. He probably won one major one every summer. Trans-Miss being one of them, Northeastern Champion, Sessinghaus. Those are big events. And it proved to us that his game could travel. And he was now playing against the best of the best. College players, yeah, he's playing in the Pac-12, solid, okay, but half the field, yeah, we know he's going to beat for sure. These amateur events, very deep. So that's part of why I think he did a great job. And as we developed a plan, we had to mix in some of these national events in the summer to see where his game really did. So when he won the Trans-Miss, he was given a exemption into, at that time, the web.com event, and he shot 63-63 in the weekend to tie and get into a playoff, and he lost to Ali, I forget how to pronounce his last name, I forget it. So, but he lost to the playoff. Now, that was like, holy smokes, you know, here we're a sophomore in college and we're already playing at a very, very, very high level. And then he stayed at Cal, 4-time All-American, 3-time first team All-American, up for the Hogan Award twice, just all those accolades. Finished his senior year by winning the Pac-12 championship and Player of the Year. And then we now transition into professional golf. And this is what's interesting, is that because he had such a resume, he signed with an agency, Excel, and they were able to get him, I think at the time, 6 sponsors exemptions for the summer of 2019. Now, he's fortunate to get there. Not every college player is going to get sponsors exemptions, but now you need to take advantage of those, right? So he did a fantastic job, you know, starting with the 14th at the Canadian Open. He lost to Matthew Wolff by 1 at 3M, and then he wins the Barracuda Championship in his 8th professional start. So now you're going, holy smokes, not only is he's a winner, but now you get to actually plan a schedule. You get to look ahead of some of the exemptions he could get into, and it just changed the whole landscape of his career at such an early age. This past year was an interesting one for all of us. Is the last time I'd seen him in the 2020 season was at the Players Championship, and the first round he shot 68, and I was telling everybody, my God, he's playing so well. And then that night at dinner, we get the text from the commissioner saying everything's shut down. And there begins the COVID lockdown, right? And so that was weird because we had some good momentum, playing well, and now what do we do, right? And so that led to us doing some stuff on Zoom. It led us to trying to create a plan for when we do get back, if we get back, what are we going to do, right? And so we're fortunate the PGA Tour was very, they've done a fantastic job getting everything back in order. And we spent 3 or 4 days before he left for Colonial, kind of a boot camp. He lives now in Las Vegas, to kind of get him started. And he played great at Colonial. Unfortunately, lost in a playoff to Daniel Berger. And his schedule for summer was just gangbusters, right? All these players were playing because they hadn't played in a while, and it's week to week to week. He had a couple breaks here and there, and then boom, he wins the workday, beating Justin Thomas in a playoff. And it's like, oh my gosh, you know, now it's what an event that was. And then we go to the PGA Championship, and I'll talk a little bit later about that. But winning the PGA Championship is a dream come true, a major championship winner, and just how he did it was just awesome, right? And right now he's currently the 5th ranked golfer in the world. So people ask me all the time, are you surprised by his success? And my answer is no, But I'll be honest with you, I didn't see the timeline being like this. I believed he was going to be a major championship winner, multiple tour events and stuff like that. But to get it all done in about really a 16-month stretch and having 2.5 months of that off is very impressive. And that goes to Collin with his work ethic and his ability to stay focused. Just awesome. So that's kind of where we've come from an accomplishment standpoint. I want to tell a little bit more about kind of what I believe made Collin successful. Okay, and so starting off with him at the age of 8, I already saw this unbelievable job of what I call growth mindset, right? This ability to always want to learn and believe he could do something about it. Okay, we get sometimes students who go, yeah, I need to work on my putting, but nothing works. I've tried that, I've tried this, and they're in a fixed mindset. Collin was always about getting better and about learning, and very curious. And that was great for an instructor because he asked great questions and it pushed me as a coach also. So he had a growth mindset, which is fantastic. One thing that again impressed me the most is I've never heard him make an excuse of why he played poorly. There was never like, I putted poorly because the greens were aerified, or I didn't hit the ball well because it was windy, or fill in the blank, the things we've always heard, right? So he was always, he always held himself accountable for, that's what I played, I need to fess up to that, and I need to learn from it. He was always open to, I call it feedback, not criticism, right? And because he wanted to get better, if I said, hey, Collin, let's try this, let's try that, he never looked at it and he's, oh my gosh, he's telling me I'm not very good. Never, okay? And so having that ability to take feedback as a young junior, I thought was very impressive. And as I've said already, he loves to learn. So to this day, he's always learning in his preparation, and after the tournaments, we're always talking about how to assess and learn from that. So he already had some of these traits. I felt my job was to cultivate those, okay? And I think through my kind of philosophy of that, I think obviously I felt I did a good job with that. So I did see Collin pretty much once a week from the age of 8 to 18. We were at Shoal Canyon Golf Course in Glendale, which is a great little executive golf course, nice full range. And then I transitioned to a small little country club called Chevy Chase Country Club, which only had 9 holes, no driving. So I were in playing lessons, and well over half of our lessons were done on the golf course. And my philosophy was to be able to say, okay, he already had a good golf swing, right? Fundamentally, he was sound. But I believe that players need to learn how to play the game, how to look at environment, make decisions, mechanically how to deal with different guys and stuff. And we just had this playground. I'll be honest, Chevy Chase was awesome. And even Shoal Canyon was awesome to be able to hop in a cart and hit different golf shots. And how I did it was basically I would give him 3 shots from the same location. And so let's say it's a second shot onto a par 4. I would throw a ball down. Maybe it's in the intermediate rough on an upslope, and I would ask him, so you get to decide how are you going to play the shot, okay? And then he would go through it, and he would hit it. Now, on the second one, I would say, okay, what did you learn from that? Do you need to make any adjustments? Yeah, that uphill was a little bit more, it pulled left more than I thought, I'm going to play. Yeah. And he was thinking. Now, sometimes I'm not saying he always made the right decision, but I allowed him to create his own feedback first. Then on the third ball, I would interject what I felt was maybe a different strategy, a different way to play it. Hey, not only you put the ball back in stance, but again, this ball could go left. Let's maybe aim here. Let's put more weight here, right? And now I'm certainly talking mechanics, but it started off with strategy and decision first, then mechanics second, and it was always a feedback. And I joke is that I think as instructors, we learn so much from our students. And I, of course, learned through the years, and I'm learning just like last week. Collin's teaching me how to hit shots now, and he's teaching me how he looks at things, and that helps me also as a coach. And so when we looked at a 1-hour session, which is what we did, the last 5 to 10 minutes was always competition. And I thought, because I knew his goals, okay, he wanted to play college golf and eventually, obviously, PGA Tour, I knew having a competitive mindset was going to be important. You're going to get beat up in this game. Yet I wanted him to strive to want to win, to be the best he could be. And he already had that chip. He was super competitive. Last week we were in Augusta and we're playing categories at night with his family, and he wants to flip and win at that, right? So he has that chip in him. But I wanted to make sure at an early age he wasn't shy about that. And he was one of those juniors where if, okay, we're gonna have a chipping contest, okay, who gets closest? He always took that on. Like, okay, let's do it. I'll have other juniors go, oh, this is not fair, you're a pro, this is not. Never for him. He took on challenges. So the competition was a good way to see, did these mechanics stick? He only got one shot. He knew there was going to be some trash talking if he lost, you know, and that was the way to, in a way, simulate some pressure, but get that competitive chip, keep that going. Talked a lot about growth mindset already. That's something in my philosophy that I want people to be empowered. They can do something about their skill sets. That, hey, I can get better. Let's try this. Oh, that didn't work. I can try this. Oh, that didn't work. And we're always open to possibilities instead of a fixed mindset, which says, yeah, I need to get better, but I've tried everything. I'm never going to get good at this. Right? And it's like, oh, as coaches, we have no chance now, right? So the learning of the student is key in their ability to not only want to learn, but they're open to different possibilities. One of my key things with all the juniors that now go on to college is I always said, I want you to be able to own your golf swing. And what I meant by that is that I wasn't one who said, hey, send me a video every single day of your swing to make sure it doesn't get off track. One, I don't have the time for that, to be honest with you. And two, I thought that was a crutch. So I said, hey, Collin, you're going into college. I want you to be able to understand your patterns of ball flights. What are your common mistakes? And here are the drills that would help you. And I'll be honest with you, throughout his whole college, I would say 90% of any time he got off a little bit had to do with some of these basic fundamentals. Maybe 10%, maybe something new creeped in, but I didn't want him to always have a panic button, like I gotta ask Coach Rick about my swing. So that was by what I talk about ownership of swing. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It means that they have a concept of the true cause and effect of what's going on, what their patterns are, and how they're going to actually train and practice to make those changes. And the other thing that we always did in college and junior, but college golf, was we always reviewed his tournaments. And that might be a 5-minute call, it might be an hour phone call, to be honest with you, is I always want to know what he learned strategy-wise, what was ball flight going, and it was a good way to wrap it up and then move on to his next tournament. So those are some of the ideas that I try to bring to all of my students, especially the competitive ones who are serious, who are motivated. I want to be able to push them in many different ways. So another part of my philosophy was with, again, this is about motivated juniors here. When they say they want to achieve a big goal in the future, I want them to think about that and then reverse engineer from there. So if I have a 14-year-old who wants to play high-level Division I golf, I know we have approximately 4 years to get that job done. And then I say, okay, well, you're not at D1 level yet. How are we going to get there? I call that a performance gap. And then we kind of backtrack from there. Now, that could be anything from obviously a skill set of, hey, I need to hit the ball 20 yards further, to I need to be competitive at the regional level, or so on and so forth. So we're looking at all these different pieces. And I would always tell Collin and his parents, this is kind of where the game plan is going. This is kind of the year I would like you to do Toyota Tour Cup. This is where AJGA may mix in. This is where a national event may mix in. And again, we plan for it. Doesn't mean everything goes exactly for plan. But part of when we looked at tournaments is it wasn't about did you win or not. I never asked him what he shot. Never. I would always ask him a few questions. What did you learn? And I'm looking at that if you do something well, I believe there is a recipe for that. And I want to know what his recipe was. The next one is what did he learn? Most people would, most of us have these parents of juniors who say, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, everything about what you did wrong. I just framed it as what did you learn? And with that, yeah, and I remember one story clearly. He came back from an AJGA event at PGA National in West Palm Beach. He came back, I asked him these same questions. I said, what did he learn? He goes, Rick, I learned that I didn't flight my irons very well. It was extremely windy, and that led to some poor approach shots, which now led to more bogeys. So it wasn't about I hit the ball bad because of the wind, and the wind is an excuse. It was, Rick, I just saw a blind spot in my game that we need to fix. Okay, so he was 16 at the time, and we don't get a ton of wind here in the LA County area, but he saw some Florida wind and goes, I'm not ready yet. So we now work on flighting irons. We work on how to control that. We learn more about decision making with that. So he was open to that already. He gave me that feedback, which I thought was, again, very mature. Not all juniors do that, but that's what I was trying to cultivate in him to begin with. And then we would, yeah, what do we need to improve? How are we going to do it, right? Let's have a game plan on that. The other part, and this is part of the competition too, is he was always embraced getting outside of his comfort zone. He played a tournament in Palm Springs. It was a 54-hole event, 36 holes in a day, and he shot 61 in the first round. And I asked him afterwards, at any point of that round, were you uncomfortable? And he admitted, said, yeah, 17th tee. I realized I could shoot 59. I got a little bit about the future, and so he realized that, hey, I'm playing great, but my mind went forward instead of staying on the present moment. But he embraced that. He embraced the Walker Cup. He asked the captain, I want to be the first one to hit the first tee shot for the Americans. I want to play with Tiger Woods. He embraces that, and even if he doesn't play well, he's not looking at that as, oh my gosh, I failed. It's like, oh, what a cool experience, okay? And that's where I think has really led to his accelerated accomplishments on the PGA Tour, is winning the PGA Championship and taking on a great field and being tied with 6 others with 5 to play. He embraced that, like, this is pretty cool, right? So that's part of getting him outside of his comfort zone. The last thing that I put here, I wish we had more control over this, right, is his parents trusted me. Okay, now I worked really hard and I was always honest and open with them, but having their trust was crucial in the development of what Collin did. His father was at every single lesson from the age of 8 to 18 and never got in the way once. Okay, asked me questions because he would then take Collin to say, hey, remember what Coach Rick talked about this? He was there as kind of second set of eyes for me, but he trusted me fully, and that means a lot, as we all know, because the other way, which I've had plenty of those, it gets in the way of the junior development, gets in the way of the relationship with the coach, and as we know, it can become toxic. So now, as he's getting older, I'm realizing that I never have all the answers, but I'm working with an 8-year-old. I think I could have most of the answers. But as he progresses, it was important for me to now bring in more specialties. So he had his first physical assessment around the age of 16. We found that, for instance, like a lot of juniors, a weak core, weak glute muscles, especially in his left side, which caused him to slide his hips a little too much, got him tilted, got him underplaying. So we now had a little bit of a basic game plan to help with that. My good friend Don Parsons, who's one of the best in 3D, this is when he was, I think, Collin was a freshman in college. And we took him up to Santa Barbara and had Don check him out. I just wanted to make sure, hey, am I getting the most out of his golf swing efficiency-wise? Is there any postural issues? And Don was very helpful in identifying just a couple things, but those couple things can make a big difference. Not only performance, but even injuries and stuff like that. And then also up at Don's place up in Santa Barbara is Preston Combs, who we saw probably, time flies, but maybe 2.5 years ago. I said, hey, Preston, you know, I'm a good putting coach, but I'm not a great putting coach. I need you to look at him. He's got a fantastic lab up there inside, and had check out Collin's mechanics. Also helped him with green reading a little bit, and just a great resource for me. I have an affiliation with a company called UGP, Urban Golf Performance. They have some wonderful trainers, and one of their head trainers, Leo Bruni, about 2 years ago, put Collin through a very advanced assessment. We started creating now more of some baseline maintenance programs for his physical fitness. He was doing things at Cal, certainly. Some years are better than others, but having now Leo on the team to be able to assess him, again, one of our goals was for him to stay healthy, throughout the rigors of travel. And as we now move forward, we're going to be looking at things, how to get them stronger and so on and so forth. I use many different psychological profiles. One of them happens to be a personality profile by a company, Athlete Assessments, which I'm certified in. And that helped us understand Collin's strengths and what he tends to do under pressure. I've also had his caddy take this. I've had his agent take this. I've taken this, because from a relationship standpoint, we want to make sure that the pieces are all working together. Everybody has different preferences when it comes to goals and communication. Are we people, even a pace of play, right? You'll have some players that are more prone to play faster than others. So that is a big 44-page report. So I'm trying to put all these pieces together to best serve Collin in what he wants to do, right? He wants to be the #1 player in the world, and I want to make sure that I can give him some of those pieces. So this is now kind of a little bit off of Collin, but I think it's important for us as coaches to come together, and we know that there's some trends that are happening that I believe are getting in the way of development of a junior golfer. Now, not short-term fixes, but long-term development. And what I'm seeing is the trend that using social media to praise your students. I guess there's nothing wrong with that indirectly, but you have to understand, I see a lot of juniors on the mental game. I remember a 16-year-old that came to me who was a world beater when he was 12 and 13 years old, just winning every US Kids and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, his swing coach would be putting all his videos up and stuff like that. And then he hit the wall at 16 and couldn't break 80, right? And he had a disconnect now because he's not obviously seeing good results. And now we've got some trouble because he was praised so much. Oh my gosh, you're so good. Oh my God. And now we have some rough road. So I want to make sure as coaches that we're not always just praising that they got a gold medal around their neck. Is that there are certain coaches out there that I really admire, Josh Albert and Dan Martin, and they're professing effort, and they're professing mindset, and they're saying your competitive spirit and your attitude. That's what we want to promote the most, okay? The wins and losses are going to fluctuate, but these juniors don't understand that. They think that they're only going to get attention if they get the medal, and unfortunately, they're not always going to get the medal, and so they can't sometimes deal with the down parts a little bit. This also leads to parents who are completely unreasonable, okay? So your kid wins at 8, 9 years old, US Kids Tour, they think that that same progression is going to happen when they're 15, 16. Obviously, it does not, okay? They're at least not going to win as much. And now you might have somebody who's taller, who's more powerful, and they're just ripping it past your kid. So we have to educate these parents the best that we can. And that's why I joke about Collin never winning an AJGA event. I tell these people, he never won. He's doing okay for himself. He played a lot of AJGA events. He played some national ones. He played well in them. He learned. He got to be on the national stage. But let's not just define it as success failure if he won or not. Okay. The other thing that's coming about, I think, is getting back to this idea that we have to have a perfect golf swing because we have all these unbelievable advances in technology. I've certainly used TrackMan. I feel like I'm competent at that, and we have video and all those type of things, and 3D vests and force plates. That's great information. However, I don't think every player's swing needs to look the same, right? I mean, we're seeing, you know, one of Collin's competitors, right, Matthew Wolf, has a different looking golf swing that produces a hell of a lot of good shots and a lot of great stuff under pressure. And so I think we still need to look at each junior in an individual way to be able to honor what they like to do and what, you know, let them feel it and let them, what's their natural motion. We're still looking at certainly cause and effect relationships, and we want to know why the ball's going where it's going. But I don't think everybody has to have the same P2 position and the P4 position, stuff like that. I'm just seeing all kinds of different stuff out there now that I'm being more out on the PGA Tour and being up close and going, that looks different, but then the ball flight looks the same. So we have to be getting a little bit careful with posting somebody's swing because it looks good. I don't know where that ball went. I mean, yeah, the position 2 looks good. But for all I know, that ball went 50 yards left. So I think we're losing the idea of what the performance is about instead of just the pretty pictures. And I don't think a lot of juniors are translating it on the golf course as much. So again, most of my clients nowadays is more mental game. And I'm very surprised that they don't know how to play golf. They don't know how to make decisions. They don't know how to play to their strengths, their patterns of shots, because all they've been doing is doing block practice to try to get their TrackMan numbers a certain way. And I think that's a detriment to their development. So just real quick, I think we have challenges with youth development. Some of it is facilities that won't allow playing lessons, right? So again, I was so fortunate, Shoal Canyon, Chevy Chase, to be able to go on the golf course with my students. I know not all of you have that, okay? But how can we maybe get around that? You know, maybe after COVID is that you have a threesome of junior golfers that we take out every Monday afternoon or something like that. I think there's ways to get around it where the facility can still benefit, but as coaches, we can now benefit our students more because we're actually seeing them play. Yes, educating parents is going to be a key part of that. I've been fortunate with not only SCPGA, but SCGA to be able to have some platforms to be able to get that word out a little bit more. We've already talked about kind of the perfect swing ideas. And I think it's, you know, unfortunately, back to like the 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds that are already experiencing a tremendous amount of pressure from their parents to win, to get a medal, they're emotionally not ready for that yet. I understand when they're 16, 17, they want to get a college scholarship, they're going to have to deal with some pressure, but I don't think that should be put on an 8 or 9-year-old. And then the other trend, which I understand, I have 3 kids, my oldest is in college, the importance of a college scholarship has now become the carrot that parent is put in front of every junior, and he gets away from the motivation of actually enjoying the game and loving it. And so unfortunately, I see that trend only increasing, but we need to have a balancing act. It's great to have that goal, but I will also want them to enjoy the hard work that has to go with that. So now I was thinking about when John asked me to do this of, okay, I've shared some of the other stuff before, but I've had to kind of look and say, wow, he's just won the PGA championship. Now what, right? And Collin is a very self-motivated individual who is always looking at what's next, okay? I also wanted him to embrace that you just won the PGA championship, let's enjoy that. And he did, but he is always moving forward. And I'll be honest with everybody, I need to move forward as a coach to make sure that I don't get complacent, that I don't just say, hey, everything's working, everything's great. Man, this is a tough game. So after the PGA, he's had mixed results, okay? He barely made the cut on the number at the Masters. And there's a lot of damn good players out there. So I need to also up-level my ability. So I'm fortunate that, you know, being with TaylorMade and Collin's with TaylorMade, we get them to do analytics on us. This is before the summer, by the way. We're getting a new report this Friday. But I just want to give you a snapshot. We get everything that ShotLink does. They compress it. They let us know what he's doing. So this is done, as you can see, the last event in this particular report was the Arnold Palmer, which was right before the shutdown and the quarantine. And we can compare his numbers in 19 compared to the start of 2020. We can look at some trends. And we have and this report is 12 pages long. I'm just giving you one snapshot. We understand his putting. We understand how many putts he's left short. Again, I've had to now educate myself on data and not getting lost in it, but figuring out what is going to help me as a coach, help him in performance. My other big belief is that if I can improve somebody's performance by 1%, especially at this level, oh my gosh, exponentially, that is unbelievable. But I got to find what that 1% is, right? And sometimes we look at like, putting here, we go, oh my gosh, his putting needs to improve. Maybe, okay, but in Mexico, he had a hard time reading the greens and he worked with a different putter that week. That putter's obviously not in his bag anymore. And that waste management in Phoenix, his putting was poor on the weekend. The greens got very glassy, very fast. He did not adapt. So it's not about stroke, it's about adapting to speed. So that's why we always now have a breakdown, is that it's not always mechanics, okay? And maybe we need to do a better preparing job. Maybe it is equipment. Maybe, I mean, we've gone through, I think we had 5 wedges in his bag during the week of the PGA. He hit hundreds and hundreds of shots around the green out of the rough to figure out, oh, I need the high toe wedge. He has not had the high toe wedge in his bag since the PGA, just so you know. And he chipped in with it at the PGA, he did, but that's us learning that the equipment can be a big part. We do that Monday, Tuesday with a lot of preparation and such. So I get all this data, okay, I gotta know what the heck to do with it. And then, okay, how do I now make somebody who's already great and make them better? And hey, I'm telling you, I've learned a lot. I'm continuing to learn. It's obvious what I'm gonna say, but there's a lot of good players out there. I mean, there's players on the Corn Ferry Tour that certainly can win on PGA Tour. There's players on the Canadian Tour that can win on the Corn Ferry. We know these college players are just more and more developed quicker. We know junior golfers that are doing unbelievable things, okay? Talent is there, but is that still enough? And the answer is no. I believe there's intangibles that, again, super hard to measure, but really make a big, big, big difference. So since he turned pro in June of 2019, you know, he's always had a very strong mindset. But now you have the ups and downs of the tour. You have him losing a playoff in missing a short putt. Then you have the winning. I mean, all kinds of stuff. You have to have that mindset to deal with those ups and downs. The support team, I always knew team was important, but when he hired his caddy, JJ Djokovic, unbelievable guy and super talented, worked for Ryan Moore for 8 years. So he had experience. They mesh so well. We talk as a team, us three, at events and how to prepare. I believe JJ is worth a half a shot to 2 shots around sometimes, as talented as Collin is. So that's part of that. We want to put a good team together. He's got a great agency. I know his specific agent quite well. We hang out a lot. We talk about what's best for Collin. He feeds me, hey, this is some of the time commitments Collin has. We have to be able to communicate. Super, super important. He's got a great family. He's got a great girlfriend, right? If some of that stuff goes south, okay, it will affect the performance of the golfer. And I believe my job as a coach is to make sure these pieces are cohesive enough that it's more than just is his golf swing there, right? So we do have open communication. I speak to his caddy constantly. I speak obviously to Collin constantly, and we speak together. And we're just being open with, hey, how can we get better? And I'll always ask Collin, how can I be better as a coach? Or what do you need from me at a tournament site? And I'm not afraid for him to say, hey, I need help with this, and maybe I don't have the answer, and I will reach out to people who do. The other challenge has certainly been with the amount of travel, with now him winning the PGA, is the amount of commitments that are involved on his part and being able to balance that. Well, his agency has done a great job of balancing that. He's now played in the Masters. He's going to play in one event in December, but he's basically going to have a little bit of a break now, which is nice, okay? Because next season's going to be crazy again. There's a lot of stuff going on, potential Olympics, potential Ryder Cup. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. And what I've now, from a coaching standpoint, is trying to, again, uncover the small things that are going to make a big, big, big difference, even from learning more about equipment. I'm learning now more about putter design. I mean, it's like, holy smokes, I didn't know how important this stuff was until we get to a level like a PGA champion here. And then something that Collin is extremely good at, and I wasn't good at this at the start, I'm getting better, is blocking out what other people think, okay? So obviously he's had a successful career. Most people are gonna say, hey, you're doing great, Collin, love your swing and that kind of stuff. But being on podcasts and being on different things, people have been 95% super, super positive, but then I always get that well, you know, he doesn't hit the ball as far as other people, and do you think that's going to be a problem? And depending on the mood I'm in, sometimes I say, I don't think it's a problem. He's won 3 times in his first 27 starts, and he's a major championship winner. Now, that's when I'm a smart ass. But other times I go, okay, but he's 23 years old, and maybe we want to create more club head speed in the coming years, but I'm not going to take away the essence of who he is. Right now, we're in this distance debate with Bryson, and all power to him. He is working his tail off and reinventing his game. We just saw at the Masters that doesn't always guarantee success. Bernhard Longer beat him. Okay, so I don't want to get caught up in trends too much. I have to understand what's best for my player and educate myself on what's going on, certainly, but not just jump around too much and really trust the plan. So that's what I'm continuing to learn. I don't do much on social media because I don't like the interaction on that. But I have to now be able to take this information in and figure out what are those small things that I can help them with. So I know I talked fast. I know I buzzed through a lot of stuff there. But I want to know if anybody has any questions. I think maybe John maybe take some of those, but I appreciate the opportunity to share the story. I've been very, very grateful to be able to have that opportunity with Collin. All of us have had talented juniors. Obviously not all my juniors have succeeded at that level, but this has been just a great mix, and a lot of really good things have happened for this to occur. So thank you, John, for allowing me to share the story.
Well, Rick, thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning on the webcast. The question that a lot of us have, and it's coming twice on the question board today. It was one of my own personal questions for you this morning. What is that intangible it factor that separates the Collin Morikawas from the other kid on the Walker Cup team who, had a better national ranking and toted more weight? That obviously had the big Callaway contract that came in, and he's not seen any of the success to this point. What is that intangible it factor that separates the multitude of great players from the ones that go out and actually make it happen?
Yes, and it is a great question, and because they're intangibles, I'm just giving you my opinion, right? There's nothing I can measure to prove to you this, but at an early age, I've told the story before where I came home from teaching one day and I sat on the couch with my wife. I said, I'm telling you, Collin has it. Now, Collin was 12 years old at the time, okay? And now what I meant by it is you had this maturity, you had this attitude, you had this competitive fire, you had this, he held himself accountable, he never made excuses. So those are some of those those traits and those intangibles. Now, as we accelerate and get to this higher level, and now seeing more behind the curtain of what's happening with these players that go from college to pro, I'm telling you, an intangible is the team you put yourself around, right? Collin decided to stay 4 years. He had a plan of graduating. He was very meticulous in which agency he chose. He had obviously a great relationship with TaylorMade already in Adidas, right? And I was staying as his coach. So we had a lot of pieces that stayed the same. There are some players, and I'm not going to name names, who changed their team, who did not stay in school maybe long enough, who got these big contracts, and they got their sponsors exemptions. Unfortunately, they didn't take advantage of them, and now they have no status. So I think that's part of it. But the other part that I've talked to Collin about a little bit is it's lonely out there too. It's lonely to now travel. Okay, when you're with your college team, you're with your buddies, everything's taken care of for yourself. It's a little easier to play well. But now you're going from place to place to place. Yeah, you may have your agent, but and so I think that's another thing, that the maturity factor I think is very important, and the team that's put around you. But on the golf course, I think his focus, his calmness, and his competitiveness is his intangibles. Walking every shot at the PGA Championship on that final round, I saw him in a calmness I've never seen and a depth of focus I've never seen. And he admits, he goes, because I'm one of the few out on the course, and I'm yelling and screaming when he chips in. So he goes, I never heard that. I go, I have the video to show you that I'm screaming 20 yards away from you. So he has that focus, and he's done obviously a great job of tapping into that when he needs to. So hopefully that answers the question.
It does. But for every, you highlighted those that have made the obvious noticeable mistakes along the way, when they get to that lonely world. But, there are still thousands of Collin Morikawas that are doing it right, that got the right attitude, that have all of the same intangibles. What is the difference maker? Is it chance at that point?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, there is a certain part, like I said, is that he had sponsors exemption. He was given more opportunities than another college player. I totally agree. But he had dinner with Justin Thomas the first week he turned pro in Canada. And Justin Thomas said, he says, if you're good enough, you'll be out there. Now, that's a pretty strong statement. Now, it may take you 5 years, it may take you 10 years, it may take you 2 months. But I think is that what Justin Thomas was saying is that if you have all those pieces, you will find a way. Some people are not patient enough to find the way. Some people get down on themselves quite easily that have high talent. And that's why I say part of the team is that you miss your first 4 cuts on sponsors exemptions. Or do you have that same confidence you did when you were the #1 college player in the country? I don't know. It depends on if you have that chip in you, right? And you have that confidence and you have that determination and you have that mental toughness. We don't know that until we're really pushed. Sometimes in college, we get these players who are highly talented get things taken care of for them all the time. And it doesn't quite, this is the same in the pro world. So there's a maturity, there's some different things, but I think his level of competitiveness, his level of being able to, I get back to accountability all the time. He holds himself accountable, does not make excuses. And if he's pissed, okay, he's going to do something about it. This was unacceptable. Rick, let's go work on something. Not all players want to work on their weakness. Not all players want to admit that they're not good at something. And he has no problem with that.
Now, when we've talked about this before, Rick, there's a certain element that separates good teachers from mediocre teachers is the fact that they can sell their philosophies to their student and get their student to believe and to buy into those philosophies and those practices. When you're working with all these young people, can you talk about some of the tactics or the approaches that you exercise that help you sell the concept of, hey, don't focus on the medal. We're working on this, we're working on that, and it's paramount to the medal. Because parents and juniors, and I'm guilty of it myself, my son plays in the JDT, and you know, you get pretty influenced by that medal, even when it technically, you know, shouldn't be important in any way. It is, and to the little ones, it really is too. How do you sell the eye on the prize, and how do you make the prize something other than the prize itself?
Sure, great question, and this is the question I ask almost every single one of my students, whether I do a Zoom session or a call. I know outcome matters. I am not a type of mental game coach that says outcome doesn't matter, score doesn't matter. Baloney. You're keeping a scorecard, you're signing a scorecard, there's a leaderboard, that is important. So I use that to then talk about my philosophy. Okay, little Johnny, okay, what do you want to, what's your goal this weekend? Oh, Rick, I want to win this tournament. I go, great. Little Johnny, do you have any idea of what you need to shoot for this score? Well, I think 2 over for this 9 holes for this JDT event. I think I can win. I go, great. So now I say, what type of golfer do you need to be to achieve that? And they look at me like, huh? What do you mean what type of golfer? I go, well, is this type of golf course where accuracy off the tee is important? Are the greens fast? And now I'm trying to put them in the mindset of playing the actual round. And then I go a step further and I go, what type of person do you need to be, little Johnny? And they go, what the heck are you talking about, Rick? Person? Well, to be at your best, when you've told me in the past, when you're at your best, you're focused, aren't you? You go, oh, yeah. What other things? Oh, Rick, I gotta get confidence out there. I want to be confident out there. I go, great. And what are the things we've talked about in a pre-shot routine to help you be confident? Oh, that's right. Visualize the shot. Oh, yeah. So if I see my shot firsthand and I have good self-talk, then I'll have a better opportunity to be confident, and then I hit a good shot, and then I can win. I go, bingo. So I reverse engineer the outcome because I know that motivates them. Same thing with the parent. And then I ask them, what are the steps to get there? And of course, my philosophy is I feed them into the mental side and the process side and have them spit it back to me. It's like, yeah, Rick, okay, my goal is to win, but I know in order to do that, I need to be committed to my shot. I need to be confident. I'm going to do that visualization we worked on. And hey, after a poor shot, I'm going to learn from it and do that post-shot routine we talked about. Now I've got it, okay? And it may not win because then afterwards I'll say, hey, little Johnny, how'd the round go? Oh, Rick, I shot 4 over. I was second place, but I was close. Now, after the fact, we're still working on the same things. Hey, how committed were you? Oh, Rick, I got really nervous on the 9th hole and I didn't commit because I think about, oh, great learning opportunity. And I love having the parent there because the parent is all about, oh, he 3-putted the last hole. I got to work on his putting. But then we find little Johnny was nervous and they didn't want to make a mistake. I said, that's more mental than it's physical. So that's how I try to go from outcome to process, is I use that as a motivator, and I always want them to understand there's steps that were needed to achieve what you want. So let's keep training those.
Now, Rick, you have a wonderful resume outside of golf. You're an ordained minister. You're a father. You know, you marry people in your free time.
Yeah, right.
What's the next 3 to 5 years look like for you? Did Collin change that?
Yes. So I've always wanted, and those that know me, I do a little bit of corporate speaking. I enjoy talking about mindset principles on and off the golf course. I'm writing a second book right now, which I'm really excited about working on. I'm working on a different project with a company about creating flow in golf and the things on that, and I'm excited about that. I'm always learning, so I think I've been extremely fortunate that with Collin's success brings more opportunities. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the joke, I have other friends in the industry, and certainly I've gotten to be in some magazines, and that's all wonderful and everything. But the joke is, well, Rick, you're a pretty good instructor 5-7 years ago, but now everybody thinks it's an overnight success, right? So I have been fortunate that, yes, Collin's success brings more attention to me. It allows me to have more opportunities. And I'm really passionate about helping junior golfers with the mental side of the game. I think they are in a very vulnerable time in their life, a lot of pressures. So I really enjoy working with that age group. I see myself.
Rick, what age group exactly?
I think anything with kind of the 13 to 17 is that sweet spot, because they're already thinking about college. They're playing in regional, national events. There's more pressure involved. They're going through their maturity issues. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And again, that's from me growing up in a very sports-minded father who put pressure on me in football and other sports. I understand what they're going through. And so I always have something in my heart for them to help them. But I also want to do golf schools and be able to speak at different country clubs and different courses. I want to get that word out on mindset and flow states and those type of things. So I'm very fortunate that a lot of opportunities have come my way.
Fantastic. Well, Rick, again, I know how busy you are, and you know the Collin Morikawa momentum has probably made your lesson book twice, 3 times as busy and hectic as it was when we were working together at Shoal back in 2012-13. But thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
My pleasure.
I think this is the 3rd time that you've come on the Catalyst webcast, and it's wonderful to hear from you, and it's wonderful to see the success, and thanks for everything. And
appreciate it, John.
Wish you the best.
Thanks so much.
Everybody who's on the Catalyst webinar this morning, the webcast will be uploaded to YouTube and will be on the Catalyst landing page on SCPGA.com. Those of you that are on the live webcast this morning, you no longer have to take the quiz to get the MSR point. If you were on the live webcast this morning, you get the MSR point automatically. Thank you, everybody. We are not going to be having a Catalyst call next week because of the holiday, and we'll resume after in December. We've only got 2 more Catalysts for the year, and then we'll be rolling into 2021 with an entire new deal.